Chapter 1, The Cache. The palace library was supposed to be empty after midnight. It wasn't. Rows of crystalline shelves glowed faintly, each scroll humming like a live wire. The room felt sacred, the kind of place where a single sneeze might get you executed. Which made the sight in the center aisle both absurd and dangerous. A human servant, jacket sleeves rolled to his elbows, sat cross-legged on the marble floor with a battered flashlight clenched between his teeth. He looked like a man repairing a broken toaster, not trespassing in the most forbidden chamber of the Empire. And he was reading. Not dusting. Not polishing. Reading. The door slammed open. Unbelievable, snarled Crown Prince Kale, boots striking the marble like a war drum. His jeweled cloak flared behind him as he stormed down the aisle. A human insect pawing the forbidden texts? I should have your tongue nailed to the wall. The servant looked up with a grin, flashlight beam bouncing. He removed it from his mouth and squinted at the prince. Oh hey, he said lightly. You're early. Give me a sec, I was just getting to the good part. Spoilers, you know. Kale froze mid-stride, momentarily disoriented by the casual tone. No one spoke to him like that. Certainly not a human. Put that scroll down. His voice sharpened. Do it now, or you'll regret being born. The servant tapped the glowing parchment. Funny thing, Your Highness. This part right here, it's almost identical to a chess opening we used back on Earth. Well, except yours ends in planetary annihilation. We usually just checkmate the other guy. Less cleanup. Kale's eyes narrowed. You can read it? Read it, annotate it, probably turn it into a Netflix limited series if you give me a week, the servant said. He smiled wider, too friendly, the kind of smile that made Kale's stomach twist. Who knew dead alien dialects were this binge-worthy? You mock me. Kale raised a hand, summoning guards from the shadows. 2 reptilian warriors appeared, blades shimmering. Humans cannot interpret the high tongue. It is older than your species. Older than our species, sure. But not older than curiosity. The servant rose smoothly, tucking the scroll under his arm as though it were a grocery receipt. He tilted his head, polite as ever. I mean, really, you lock shiny things in a room and expect nobody to peek? That's adorable. The guards tightened their grip. Kale gestured for patience. Something about the human's calmness unsettled him more than open defiance. Name yourself, the prince demanded. Name's Eli. Short for Elias, but Eli's friendlier. He extended a hand for a shake, utterly inappropriate in the context. You seem tense, Prince. Want to sit? Breathing exercises help. In through the nose, out through the... Kale ignored the hand. How long have you been trespassing here? Oh, trespassing? Maybe 5 minutes. Studying? My whole life. Eli winked. Libraries have a way of pulling me in. Doesn't matter if they're guarded by laser turrets or grumpy princes. Kale's jaw clenched. You are not amusing. Then why aren't you laughing? The prince inhaled slowly, recalibrating. The human's manner was too deliberate. No stammering, no groveling. Just ease. Kale had seen generals sweat under interrogation, yet this man treated the most sacred chamber in the Empire like a late-night diner. Tell me what you've learned, Kale said finally. If you value your life. Eli tilted the scroll so the runes bathed his face in blue light. It's basically a playbook. Your ancestors mapped invasion strategies against rival empires. Interesting patterns, predictable flanking, reliance on intimidation. Effective, but brittle. Once an enemy learns the rhythm, they can snap the whole formation like stale pretzels. The word meant nothing to Kale, but the tone did. Confident. Analytical. You presume to critique our history? Not critique. Observe. You know, humans do war differently. Less about intimidation, more about trickery. We don't usually announce we're winning until after it's too late for the other guy to breathe. He closed the scroll gently, almost reverently. Sound familiar? Kale stiffened. The guards shifted uneasily. Eli's smile softened. Don't worry, Your Highness. I'm not here to steal your heritage. Honestly, half the metaphors in this text are recycled from battles on our planet. Siege warfare, psychological feints, resource denial. It's like reading an alien version of Sun Tzu's greatest hits. Kale had no idea who Sun Tzu was, but the casual authority in Eli's tone pressed against him like a blade. You overstep, Kale hissed. You are a servant. Eli tilted his head, mock thoughtful. Am I? Funny thing about labels, they're only true until they're not. I mean, Columbus was just some guy with a boat until, oops, entire continents changed. The guards exchanged looks. Kale silenced them with a glare. Why are you really here? The prince asked. Same reason anyone pokes at mysteries. Curiosity. Boredom. Mild caffeine addiction. Take your pick. Eli slipped the scroll back onto its shelf, careful not to disturb its glow. Besides, you'd be shocked how much you can learn from a flashlight and a little insomnia. Kale felt the ground shift under him, invisible yet undeniable. The human's words were light, but every phrase carried weight. Like a hidden map only he seemed to follow. You should be afraid, Kale whispered. Oh, I am, Eli said brightly. Terrified. Sweating bullets, as we say back home. Can't you tell? He spread his arms, perfectly relaxed. Kale's temper flared. Mockery will not save you. I could order your execution this instant. Eli's expression didn't change. If anything, his smile grew warmer. You could, he agreed. But here's a thought experiment. What if I'm the least dangerous human in this palace? What if the real problem isn't me holding a flashlight, but the fact that I already knew you'd walk in tonight? Silence thickened. Even the shelves seemed to hum louder. Kale searched for a retort, but none came. For the first time, he felt as though he were the one caught trespassing. Eli clapped his hands together, cheerful again. Anyway, enough heavy talk. You must be tired. Ruling empires is exhausting, right? How about I fetch you some tea and we pretend this awkward encounter never happened? The suggestion was ridiculous. And yet Kale couldn't shake the sense that the servant was the one offering him mercy. The guards stepped forward. Kale waved them back, unsettled by his own hesitation. He studied the human's easy posture, the unshakable calm. No. Not calm. Calculated. Eli gave a little bow, polite to the point of mockery. Thanks for the chat, Your Highness. Truly enlightening. You've got a fascinating library here. Shame about the security, though. Kale swallowed hard. His instinct screamed danger, but he forced steel into his voice. This conversation is not over. Eli winked. Oh, I wouldn't dream of it. After all, he leaned in slightly, voice dropping to a whisper. Every empire thinks it discovered humans. But maybe, just maybe, humans discovered you first. The words lingered like a poison. Kale said nothing. And Eli walked out smiling. Chapter 2, The Interrogation. Prince Kale did not sleep that night. The library's glow still haunted his mind, the human's flashlight beam cutting across sacred runes, that disarming smile, the whisper about humans discovering them first. By dawn, he had ordered Eli chained to the council chamber. No trial, no audience, just the prince, 2 armed guards, and the unsettling servant whose shackles looked more decorative than effective. Eli sat comfortably despite the iron across his wrists. He studied the ceiling mosaics as if he were a tourist raiding palace decor. "Magnificent acoustics," Eli said, tilting his head. "You could host a jazz band in here. Not that you know what that is, but trust me, smooth stuff." Cale's patience cracked. "You will answer my questions directly. One lie, one evasion, and you'll be reduced to ash." "Direct?" "Sure. Though fair warning, direct answers aren't always the ones you want." Cale leaned forward. "How do you read the scrolls?" Eli shrugged. "Same way you do. Eyes, brain, a little stubbornness. Humans are adaptable. We see patterns. You hide knowledge in riddles, we call it Tuesday crossword." "Impossible," Cale spat. "The high tongue is locked by genetics. No outsider can interpret it. Maybe your people convinced themselves of that. Doesn't mean it's true." Eli's grin sharpened. "You ever consider maybe those scrolls weren't written for you?" The chamber stilled. Even the guards shifted, uneasy. Cale forced a laugh, brittle as glass. "Arrogant insect. The Empire has preserved those texts for millennia. They are our legacy." "Legacy?" Eli's tone turned almost pitying. "Or a manual you were never supposed to keep?" Cale slammed his fist against the table. Sparks rippled through the binding chains, but Eli didn't flinch. He just studied the prince's hand like a doctor diagnosing stress. "You enjoy provoking me," Cale said tightly. "Not at all. I enjoy conversations where one side pretends to be in control. It's cute. Like watching a toddler guard the cookie jar when the jar's already empty." The insult was mild, delivered with politeness, but it struck deeper than any curse. Cale rose abruptly, pacing. "You speak as though humanity is more than a client species. You are servants. Laborers. Entertainers. Labels again." Eli's eyes followed him calmly. "Romans called conquered tribes barbarians. Britain called colonies dependents. Funny thing, though, labels never outlast reality. Empires always forget who's learning under their nose." Cale stopped pacing. "You compare us to your primitive wars?" "Primitive, maybe. Effective, definitely. We fought for every inch of dirt, every scrap of sky. You've never faced an enemy that smiles while losing and still finds a way to win." A guard barked, "Enough riddles." Eli turned his gaze, friendly as a neighbor leaning over the fence. "You ever play poker?" "No." "Shame. Best way to explain humans. We bluff, we fold, we bleed chips for hours, then, when you think we're out, we flip the table and walk off with the pot." The guard faltered, unsettled. Cale raised a hand, silencing him. "You claim strategy. Show me," the prince demanded. "If humans are predators, prove it." Eli leaned back in his chair. "Sure. Let's say you want me executed. Quick, public, to send a message. Sounds efficient. But what if I already told my friends that if I vanish, they'll release something inconvenient? Suddenly, killing me isn't so simple. Now you have to weigh risk versus reward." Cale narrowed his eyes. "Empty threats." "Of course," Eli said pleasantly. "But you don't know that. That's the beauty. Fear doesn't need proof, it just needs possibility. Congratulations, Your Highness, you're already playing human chess." The words wormed under Cale's armor. The servant wasn't pleading, wasn't panicking. He was teaching, as if Cale were the pupil. The prince sat slowly, calculating. "What do your people want?" Eli tilted his head. "What does anyone want?" "Safety. Stability. A good cup of coffee. Maybe a corner of the galaxy where we're not considered house pets. Do not toy with me. I'm not. You asked for clarity, I'm giving you human clarity. We don't conquer with fleets. Too expensive. Too flashy. We conquer with ideas, whispers, trade. You won't see us coming until you're already quoting our slogans. The guards exchanged wary glances. Cale felt a bead of sweat slide down his neck. He hated the sensation, fear, creeping despite himself. You talk as though humanity has power here, Cale said carefully. Oh, we don't, Eli replied cheerfully. Not here. Not yet. That's the funny part. You think this is about me reading scrolls. It isn't. This is about what happens when every human servant starts asking the wrong questions. When curiosity spreads faster than you can stamp it out. Cale exhaled slowly. The chamber felt smaller, as though the walls leaned closer. Why reveal this to me? He asked finally. Because, Eli said, smiling with unnerving warmth, I like you. You're sharp. You'll piece it together faster than the rest. And when the floor collapses under your empire, you'll remember this conversation and realize, the servant warned you politely. Silence stretched. The prince studied him, weighing execution against interrogation, fear against pride. He hated the conclusion he reached, but it was undeniable. Killing this man would not erase the threat. It would amplify it. Cale rose. Remove him from my sight. Keep him under guard. No one speaks to him without my leave. The guards grabbed Eli's arms, hauling him up. Chains clattered. As they dragged him toward the door, Eli called back over his shoulder, voice light, almost sing-song. Careful, Highness. The scrolls don't predict your downfall. We do. The chamber doors slammed shut. Cale stood alone, pulse thundering. For the first time in his reign, the prince felt less like a ruler and more like prey. Chapter 3, The Break. The cell was designed to crush spirits. Damp stone walls curved inward like the ribs of a beast, dripping condensation. A single slit of light filtered from above, far out of reach. Shackles pinned Eli to the center post, heavy enough to restrain a bull, certainly overkill for one thin human. And yet Eli lounged, humming under his breath, tapping his foot in rhythm against the floor. The guard outside shifted uneasily. You've been here 3 hours, Eli called through the bars. Don't you get bored? Standing still like that? Back on Earth, we invented chairs for a reason. Revolutionary technology. Changed everything. The guard snarled. Silence. Can't, Eli said cheerfully. It's a medical condition. Chronic chatter. Scientists are working on it, but funding's tough. The guard cursed and turned away. Eli smiled faintly. He wasn't improvising his attitude, it was calculated. Let them underestimate him. Let them think he was just noise. He tested the chains again, not with brute force but with a practiced eye. Old iron. Strong, but the lock mechanism was primitive. These aliens relied on intimidation, not engineering. A soft click. He twisted his wrist slightly, letting the small metal shard slide from beneath his sleeve. He had lifted it earlier from the council chamber, just a sliver of broken ornamentation, but enough. While the guard muttered outside, Eli worked silently. 3 turns, subtle pressure, 1 exhale. The shackle popped open. Eli froze, listening. No alarm. Perfect. He kept the other wrist cuffed, for show, and leaned back as though nothing had changed. Moments later, the door creaked open. 2 guards entered, reptilian eyes gleaming in the half-dark. Time to move the human, one said. Eli stretched, still shackled on one side, and smiled. "Field trip already? You guys really know how to treat a guest." The nearest guard yanked his arm. The loose shackle slipped free. Before the alien realized, Eli twisted, slammed the open cuff across the guard's snout, and drove his knee into the second's gut. The cell rang with the impact. Both guards went down hard. Eli crouched, catching his breath. "Sorry, boys. Don't take it personally. Occupational hazard of underestimating bipeds." He relieved them of their sidearms, strange plasma pistols, heavy but balanced, and stepped into the corridor. The hall stretched in both directions, dimly lit by blue torches embedded in the stone. No cameras, no alarms, just arrogance. The Empire trusted fear to hold prisoners in place. Eli walked casually, pistols tucked behind his belt, as if he belonged there. When another guard rounded the corner, Eli greeted him with a nod and an easy "evening." Confusion bought him the 2 seconds needed to slam the guard into the wall and knock him cold. He dragged the body into a side alcove, muttering, "Sleep tight, buddy. You'll wake up with the worst hangover story." The palace above was alive with murmurs. Word of his capture had spread too fast. Eli knew what that meant: paranoia. Paranoia made rulers sloppy. He found the stairwell, ascending swiftly, every step measured. The scroll chamber wasn't his goal anymore. He had something better in mind: the throne hall. At the top landing, 2 armored soldiers barred his way. Their weapons hissed, energy cores glowing. "Prisoner," one barked. "How did you escape?" Eli raised both hands, smile relaxed. "Funny story. Turns out your locks are allergic to optimism." They blinked in confusion. Eli fired both pistols from the hip. Twin pulses cracked the air, slamming the soldiers against the walls. He exhaled, lowered the weapons. "See? This is why you don't let the prisoner keep souvenirs." He continued upward, ears alert. His heart beat steady. Not fear, calculation. Every encounter reinforced the illusion, a harmless human suddenly defying odds. The aliens would scramble, overcompensate, panic. Exactly as planned. The throne hall loomed ahead, vast doors carved with imperial sigils. Eli shoved them open with a grunt. Inside, nobles clustered around the dais. Prince Kale sat rigid on the throne, eyes blazing at the side of him. Gasps rippled across the chamber. Eli strolled forward, pistols loose at his sides, wearing that same infuriating grin. "Miss me?" he asked brightly. Kale rose, fury trembling in his voice. "How dare you?" "Daring's sort of my thing." Eli shrugged. "Besides, your guards invited me out. Poor hospitality otherwise." The nobles erupted, accusations, demands for his execution, fearful whispers. Eli waited, then lifted a hand. "Quiet down, please. One voice at a time. We're not animals, well, except some of you literally are, no offense." The hall fell silent, stunned by his audacity. Kale descended the steps slowly, sword at his hip. "You think this bravado protects you?" Eli cocked his head. "Not really. What protects me is math. You kill me now, half your palace burns in riots by tomorrow. Humans don't sit quietly when one of their own gets butchered. We're stubborn that way." "Lies." "Maybe." Eli's smile thinned. "But the risk isn't worth it, is it? You can't gamble an empire on maybe." The nobles murmured again, tension rising. Kale halted a step away, face inches from Eli's. "You speak as though you hold power." Eli's voice softened, still polite, almost intimate. "Not power. Influence. And influence, Your Highness, is scarier than any weapon. Because it spreads even when you try to kill it." He holstered one pistol, leaving his hand free. So here's the choice: call me an insect, execute me, prove your strength, and watch everything crumble. Or sit down, breathe, and start realizing humanity isn't what you think it is. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Kale's sword hand twitched. His eyes burned with hatred, but beneath it Eli saw doubt, deep, gnawing doubt. Eli stepped back, giving him space, and spoke lightly, "Think of me as a mirror. You don't like what you see? That's not my problem." The chamber quivered with tension. For the first time, the Empire's heart skipped a beat. Eli turned, strolling casually toward the exit, leaving nobles gaping in disbelief. At the doors, he glanced over his shoulder, smile still warm but edged with steel. "Oh, and Kale? Just between us, you've already lost control. The only question is whether you notice before the floor gives way." Then he was gone. Chapter 4, The Trap. The palace was in uproar. Every corridor throbbed with alarms, nobles argued in corners, generals barked orders no one obeyed. Servants scattered like startled birds. One escaped human had turned the Empire's center into chaos. Eli walked through it all like a tourist in Times Square, admiring the art, smiling at panicked faces, sidestepping guards who shouted but didn't shoot. He carried no weapons now. He didn't need them. The council chamber doors loomed ahead, guarded by a phalanx of elite soldiers. Unlike the others, these didn't hesitate. They leveled their spears, energy crackling. "Stop," their captain barked. "Another step and you die." Eli raised his hands, palms open. His grin remained, though his voice softened. "You might want to save the dramatics. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to explain why fighting me is the last mistake this empire will make." The guards faltered, exchanging uncertain looks. The captain hesitated. That pause was all Eli needed. He brushed past them, calm as a man entering a cafe, and pushed open the doors. Inside, the throne chamber boiled with arguments. Nobles shrieked about security breaches, priests demanded rituals, generals threatened executions. Prince Kale sat rigid on the throne, fury carved into his face. The moment Eli entered, the noise crashed into silence. He bowed with exaggerated courtesy. "Hope I'm not interrupting. But, judging by the volume, I'd say you weren't getting anywhere productive anyway." Kale shot to his feet. "Seize him!" No one moved. Not out of loyalty, out of dread. Eli chuckled. "See? They're starting to realize. You could cut me down right here, and it wouldn't matter. In fact, it would make things worse. Much worse." Kale descended the steps, blade drawn. "You speak riddles. Enough games. Tell me what you are." Eli's smile vanished. His eyes sharpened, voice dropping its warmth. For the first time, the mask slipped. "What I am," he said evenly, "is the polite version of humanity." A ripple went through the chamber. He let the silence hang, then began pacing slowly, addressing the entire hall. "You think humans are harmless pets, entertainers, curiosities. You see smiles and assume weakness. That's the trap. We learned long ago that predators who grin live longer than predators who roar." He stopped, turning toward the nobles. "We infiltrated your courts because you let us. You thought we were useful servants. Cute. Disposable. Meanwhile, we learned your language, your laws, your blind spots. We mapped every weakness while polishing your floors." Murmurs spread like fire. Kale snarled. "You expect us to believe a servant species orchestrated this?" "Not orchestrated," Eli corrected lightly. "Prepared. All we needed was one moment, one distraction, to flip the board." He snapped his fingers. Across the chamber, a noble's wristcom blinked red. Then another. Then another. Confusion turned to alarm as screens lit across the hall, messages, streams of data, strange symbols that spread like infection. Eli's grin returned, razor-edged. While you were busy treating us like furniture, we were busy teaching every human servant in every palace how to listen, how to pass information, how to wait. You locked us in your empire's heart and assumed we were harmless. Congratulations, you built our network for us. Kale lunged forward, blade raised. Lies. Eli didn't flinch. He stepped aside neatly, letting the prince's blade whistle past. Think so? He asked calmly. Check your fleet channels. A general fumbled with his comm, pale scales paling further. My ships, they're offline. Every system jammed. Gasps rippled outward. More confirmations followed, voices rising in panic. Eli spread his arms, as though unveiling a magic trick. We don't need battleships. We don't need armies. We just needed you to give us access. And you did. Willingly. The nobles erupted in chaos. Some shouted for immediate execution, others begged for negotiation. Priests dropped to their knees, whispering prayers. Kale raised his sword again, but his hand shook. What do you want? He demanded. Eli stepped closer, voice lowering to a near whisper, intimate, dangerous. What we've always wanted. A place. Not chains, not cages. A seat at the table. He leaned in slightly, his grin unnervingly kind. We don't destroy empires. We adopt them. You'll keep your throne, Prince. You'll just learn to share the armrest. Kale trembled with rage. You threaten us with collapse and call it sharing? Eli's eyes glittered. You misunderstand. Collapse isn't a threat. It's already happening. Your fleets are blind, your nobles are panicking, your economy will seize in hours. The only choice left is whether you admit humanity pulled it off, or whether you pretend it was fate. The chamber rang with stunned silence. Even the torches flickered lower, as if the room itself recoiled. Eli clapped his hands once, breaking the tension. Well, that's the speech. Any questions? Comments? Concerns? No? Good. He turned toward the doors, as casual as ever. Behind him, Kale's voice cracked with fury. This is war. Eli paused at the threshold, glancing back over his shoulder. His smile returned, warm, almost gentle, yet colder than any threat. No, he said softly. This is family. And family, Prince, always finds a way inside. Then he walked out, leaving the empire in stunned silence as its foundations crumbled.